This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I bring back the baseball talk. Yes, baseball is slowly but surely coming back. We have free agency. We're talking about the huge Shohei Ohtani deal. What does this mean for the future of baseball? Is it good? Is it bad? We also talk about the transfer portal, what's happening in the upcoming bowl games, and finally, are the Cleveland Browns a legit team for a playoff run? All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and yes, it's Christmas time. Yes, animals out. We are, I think it's animal, right? This is animal, right?
That is animal.
Yes, animal. I see someone today at school, Josh. This is a fun little story to start the show. Someone at school said that I think it was like I showed them the picture of me holding a dog yesterday, like at our like little Bible study thing, and they're like, "Oh, that's that's Angry Elmo," and I was like,
"Oh,
that just offends me." Like that you think that Elmo's first off, Elmo's never angry. Let's just clarify that. But yeah, that's a fun little story.
Yeah.
Anything fun Christmassy happening for you there, Josh?
For the people that are watching, we do have our Christmas tree up over here.
We still don't.
Still don't?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the red hat on today, I guess. I did find this one really cool Christmas sweater at
Are you gonna wear it next week?
Maybe. So have you seen Christmas Vacation?
Yes, it's phenomenal.
Okay, do you know the line where what's his name? Clark is setting up the Christmas lights and just stuff is crashing into the neighbor's window or the icicles crashing in the neighbor's window. Yeah. And then the carpet's all wet and the neighbors are like, "Why is the carpet all wet, Todd?" And then he's like, "I don't know, Margot." I found a Christmas sweater that says, "I don't know, Margot."
That is phenomenal.
I bought it at Goodwill for $5.
Dude,
so
Goodwill.
If I remember, I'll have it on next show.
Yes, I will remind you so that you can be in the Christmas spirit and people don't think you're a bahumbug. But anyways, Josh, I know we've spent probably the last 4 months talking college football. I mean, literally, I think we sprinkle in other things, right? We give you a little flavor, but for the most part, we were a one-way show. And I think it changed a little bit this week, at least for the time being, until obviously bowl games start and stuff.
Yeah, the crazy thing about that is that we're a big baseball podcast.
We are.
For some reason, we keep talking about college football. So
that is true. Because even like when you joined the show, I mean, it was the middle of basketball season, but then like once we got to the summer, I believe when we first started together, we talked about baseball for literally like 8 months. Like even when football was going, we still put a chunk of baseball in there. I think it's just this year has been so crazy for college football that it's almost become a silly part of this world we live in.
Yeah. So baseball, man, we're starting to get into some huge signings in the offseason.
Huge. Are you
we'll
sure?
Talk
huge?
about pretty huge. We'll talk about the Sonny Grays. We'll talk about the Juan Sotos, but we got to lead off with the biggest name in baseball.
Yep.
Going to the team that I think nobody's surprised by.
That's a surprise.
What is the surprising detail is this contract. So the $700 million over 10 years is incredible. It's a $70 million per year average for a guy that's going to be playing two ways, at least after this season, because he can't pitch this year. But then the detail comes out. He's deferring most of that money, so he's only going to get $2 million each of those 10 years.
97% he's deferring. 97%.
And then after that, he'll average $68 million over the 10 after that. And it's going to be less because of inflation and
that's true.
Stuff. But also crazy is that he's not even going to see half of that money because of California taxes.
I know.
But that's besides the point. $2 million a year. So Shohei, just like I expected, is a good dude, a team-oriented guy, wants to win, joins a team that already has a bunch of stars on it, and left them plenty of money to go and get more. A team that already has Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, now adds Shohei Ohtani, and still has cash available to go and get more guys if need be.
The big name is obviously the ace from Japan, his teammate in the World Baseball Classic. I never pronounce his name. It's like Yamamoto, I believe. He's a freak. And they've even said the Dodgers still have money to go and spend a lot of money on him, which then just makes you realize as a Guardians fan and as a Reds fan as myself, that you could take 5 years of what the Reds make or the Guardians make, and we still wouldn't come close to like.
Just like Shohei Ohtani is making more money this season than I think the entire Cleveland payroll probably will.
And it's true. Well, I mean, it's funny that you talked about like him getting that deferred payments because literally a year before Bobby Bonilla stops receiving payments from the Mets, Shohei Ohtani starts getting payments, which is $68 million, which, as you said, in California will probably be more like $33 million because he's going to have like 50% of it taken away. If he was smart, he could say, hey, after that, I'm going to start living in like, which he might do this. He might just live in another state and then they'd like pay him. I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know if they have to pay tax based on where the team's located or where he's located. I don't know how that works, but if he's smart, he goes to Japan and just says, hey, send me the check. I will cash it. But no, it's very fascinating. I shared this post. I don't know if I can find it. I don't think I can find it, but oh no, here it is. I want you to just listen to this, Josh, just how insane this contract is before he deferred it. Obviously per year, he'd make $70 million per month. He'd make $5,833,000 per week. He'd make $1,300,000 per day. He'd make $190,000 per hour. He'd make $7,000 per minute. He'd make $133, and per second he'd make $2.22. That means, as I just shared, that he has made close to $40. Like it's just it. Is there a point, Josh? And this is the question I posed to some of my friends. Is there a point, Josh, where this becomes just utterly ridiculous? Like to the point where it's like, look, I get, you want to get a star and like, yeah, he's a two-way player, it's amazing. But look, the first year he's not going to be pitching because of his arm. Is there a point where these sports contracts are just going to get so ridiculous that it's like, what's the fun in rooting for your team if this one team's going to have almost $1 billion in payroll this next year? I mean, it's not that, but I'm just saying that's what it feels like.
Yeah, if the player contracts finally outpace like the total revenue of the team and then they actually can't pay him, I don't know. But we were talking about it, I think even last year, what Shohei Ohtani is really worth. And you think about it, some of the best pitchers, I think, are getting close to 30 million a year, and some of the best bats are getting close to 40 or 50 million. So it's like, is someone going to pay Shohei $80 million a year since he is two-way? And it's pretty close to that. But the other thing about that, just contracts and teams being able to just go and buy everybody, I will still point out that the Dodgers have only won one ring over the last 30 or 40 years. And they still weren't this year. Since I was just naming all the guys, they got Freeman over there, Betts over there, Ohtani over there. I believe they're going to get Gavin Lux back after having season-ending surgery in spring training. They got Will Smith behind the plate. I think Colton Wong's still there. Chris Taylor will be there. James Outman, who had a solid rookie season, will be there. The one thing that I think you're going to have to keep an eye on with the Dodgers, though, is the pitching staff, just because I don't know what's going to come of this Julio Urias legal trouble. Yeah. Dustin May's always hurt. Clayton Kershaw's terrible in the playoffs.
And Ohtani can't pitch till 2025.
So, yeah, right. Ohtani can't even pitch this year anyway. So that's going to be what I'm going to be curious about for the Dodgers going forward.
And how long is this arm issue? Like, is this going to be a thing where it's done? Because this is not the first time he's had an arm issue.
This isn't the first time he's had an arm injury, right?
So how are you willing? Like, this is my other question. How much of this money is based on him pitching and playing, right? Like, how much of this money that is deferred is going to be like, hey, you're going to only get 60% of it if you don't hit these certain innings, right? Because like, I don't think the Dodgers are that stupid to give him $700 million and say, hey, all of it is going to be like yours, right? Like, I feel like there's going to be some.
That's typically how baseball contracts work, though. Yeah. They're almost always fully guaranteed,
which is crazy to me, by the way. Like, especially with pitchers of like how bad their arms can get at certain stages of their career. The other thing I want to ask you, Josh, was about this was that, you brought up a great point. The Dodgers have only won one World Series in the last
one World Series in our lifetime. Right? One since 1988 they won one, and then that 2020 shortened season they won one.
So my question for you then is, Josh, is like, look, like some of these other teams, like look at the Braves, right? Like they're signing these guys when they're like not really stars yet, but they're not signing for like, look at Albies, right? They signed him that big contract. It wasn't a lot of money, right? It was just like, hey, we're going to lock him up.
Yeah,
I feel like, honestly, that might be the smarter way to
it is, because then you don't have to. It's a win-win because the team gets to pay them a little bit less than what they eventually would, and the players get to make more money up front, because most teams are just gonna let their rookie contracts play out and then go through the arbitration period, and then they become a free agent and then make the big money. So up until that point, they're making like $500,000-$600,000, but the Braves are like, we'll just give you millions right up front.
Yeah,
and they're like, okay.
And the Brewers just did that with a guy who's never played a single inning of Major League Baseball. They just signed him to like an 8-year, $90 million deal, right? Like teams are looking at it, and like, you saw the Reds do that with Hunter Green. Like Hunter Green hadn't proven really much in the big leagues. Like he'd been hurt. His ERA was high, but they said, look, the potential of this guy.
And he was a number 1 pick, I think,
Yeah.
right?
And I think the other hard part to me is like, I love Ohtani. Don't get me wrong. I love watching Ohtani play. Like I've liked watching certain guys like Ken Griffey Jr. and some of these guys play when I was younger, Albert Pujols. There's something about Ohtani, like he's doing stuff we've never seen, like at least in our lifetime. And it's awesome to see, but like, look, it's hard to really want to watch professional sports, Josh, when 2 or 3 teams in most sports are just taking up all of the good players or all the payroll. And that's what I think made this last baseball season so phenomenal, because you had 2 teams in the World Series that necessarily weren't teams that were just buying players for millions and millions and millions of dollars. They did it kind of in their own style, their own way. And I know that wasn't the most watched World Series, but it's like, I don't want to see a Dodgers versus freaking the Yankees every season for the next 30 years. I don't want to see that. I want to see where, hey, maybe the Reds or maybe the Guardians or maybe the Pirates or maybe the Padres every once in a while are just popping in. They get a World Series here or there. Like that makes it more entertaining. It's like soccer or any of these other sports where you have a team that wins all the time. It's not any fun anymore at some point.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate again, I don't think we're going to get that just because we haven't.
I don't either.
Cleveland's made it to more World Series in recent memory than New York has. New York hasn't made it since 2009 when they last won it. And then we just talked about the Dodgers. I don't think the Braves are going anywhere. I don't think the Rangers are actually going anywhere. The Diamondbacks are building something nice.
I mean, even the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees getting Soto was a huge.
Juan Soto was a huge move. So let me go ahead and read you the projected Yankees lineup since we just talked about like what the Dodgers got.
So scary.
You're looking at DJ LeMahieu, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Alex Verdugo, who they also added, Anthony Volpe, and Austin Wells.
Anthony Volpe hits like 190 though.
Yeah,
he's just a Gold Glover, but that's about all he gives you.
But you can afford to have a 190 guy when you got all the other guys that I just named. It's like moonshot city, man.
Can you imagine Dodgers versus the Yankees like in New York City and then in freaking LA? Like those 2 games are going to be impossible to get tickets to. It's going to be.
Well, that's what Rob Manfred in the front office is hoping happens.
Oh, for sure. They were like people when they say like, oh, these signings aren't rigged. Let's be honest. There's certain places where they're going to persuade certain things to one side or the other. It's no one wants to see Shohei Ohtani in Cincinnati, Ohio. All right.
Well, it's not like Cincinnati can even afford him anyways.
Yeah, it's true. But what I'm saying is they would have to give him the keys to the city and say, you'll become mayor and then governor of Ohio as long as you come play for Cincinnati Reds.
Which on that note about teams that could get Shohei, what did you think of the Toronto Blue Jays
the
rumor?
debacle where the guy messed it up,
the apparent fake flight
how do you mess up, man? Like how do you mess that up? Like you can't. Like Shohei Ohtani was in his living, like they even said he was in his living room when this report was dropped. Like he was in LA in his living room just hanging out, and this guy says he's on a flight.
I don't know how much truth there is to this, but somebody came up with the idea that maybe the Dodgers offered him $600 million. And Shohei's agent decided to create a fake flight to Toronto that people could track and say he's going to the Blue Jays and then put that out there. And then now that there's more demand and the Dodgers are like, oh no, we messed up, they level it up to $700 million. When Shohei wasn't ever going to go to Toronto to begin with.
I also don't believe the Blue Jays would be able to afford $700 million. To be honest.
That's the other thing. When I heard the Blue Jays, I was like, okay, first off, that's kind of crazy that the Blue Jays are actually having a meeting right now. But the second thing that I thought was, Shohei already put it out there that if anyone leaks any kind of meeting that he has with any team, he will not sign there.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, man, in my head, I was like, that eliminates Toronto, I guess.
I also really respect Shohei Ohtani. He did this the most professional way possible. He said, I'm going to do it on my own time, my own terms. I'm going to do it behind the scenes. I don't want to make a public thing. And the media, this is what bothered me so much, Josh, is the media ripped him apart because he wasn't making a big deal about it, that he was ruining it for MLB. I'm like, this dude is doing a job interview. He doesn't have to announce to the world where he's going to do a job interview. He doesn't have to say where he's going. He can just simply do what he wants to do because it's him. And what I love about Shohei is that he cares about the people, he cares about the fans, he cares about the game of baseball. He loves baseball. He's not about, like, if he was about the money, he would have said, give me all 700 million. Give me 70 million a year. He didn't. He said, give me 2 million. He's making less than Ken Griffey Jr. is making this year from the Reds, and he's not even playing for the Reds.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. And I think that just, like you said, it shows Shohei's character, not necessarily all about him, wants to win.
He also is
And
older too. He's like 27
he's
or
29.
Yeah, so like
29. I was looking it up to see when that
it
contract
does
would
make
end.
me worried. Like how many more years you getting him to pitch? Like hitting, I think he can hit till he's 39. Like I believe that, right? But how many more years are you going to get of him pitching is the question.
Yeah, I
Maybe
guess
another
we'll see.
6 solid, 7
We're seeing
solid.
guys like Verlander pitch till they're as old as they are, but you got to stay healthy. And if he already has like 2 injuries already to his arm, can't feel the most confident that he'll be pitching until 39.
And other teams have made moves too. The Reds have made a few moves. They got Yeimer, I can never say his name. Colorado. I can never say his name. Played for the Nationals last year. They signed him. They got a few pitchers. I know the Guardians have made some moves. Hey, they brought back their below 200 hitting catcher. What is a so
I
great.
saw that. I was
love
like,
it.
we already brought in Christian Betancourt. We still have Cam Gallagher on the roster, I think,
It's
and Bo
awesome.
Naylor
I
is
love
still
it.
a thing. It's like I don't understand
It's
that
like
move
part of the
whatsoever.
Guardian culture. Like, like there's certain things like, so a game I play where there's like certain culture things that you have to hit in order to like the team to allow you to sign that player. I feel like the part of it is like when you go for a catcher, no, they're Gold Glover. Awesome. They hit over 200. Sorry, can't get them. Like, I feel like they have to fit this.
Catchers that hit under 200. Yep. It's the only way.
The only way possible.
Man. Good baseball talk, though, man.
Dude, it feels good to talk about baseball. It's also because there's really, like, let's be honest, baseball doesn't really happen for another few months. So why not? There is the Saudi Arabian League. We could talk about the Saudi Arabian League. That is the most horrific thing to watch, by the way. I thought I was going to be really excited about it. I watched it, and it's like you get 6 runs for one thing. And I'm like, don't ruin baseball, man. Just keep baseball. That's what you should do.
Yeah. But and Sonny Gray is over with the Cardinals. That's another big name that
which was very interesting to me, to be honest. I don't know why, but I just felt like, also I was really mad the Reds didn't try to re-sign him, because I think he would have been a perfect fit in Cincinnati. Like, just a veteran dude that could go out there who already knows the culture. That was the one I was like really bummed that the Reds didn't try to go get.
And I thought the Cardinals were kind of in a rebuild.
That's what I thought too. Yeah. And I think them not trading Nolan this offseason or Goldschmidt, I think kind of showed that. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like them not trying.
Those would have been the next guys if they were actually rebuilding.
And they wouldn't have brought in some of these veteran dudes. They would have said, like, screw it, we're just gonna play young dudes next year.
Yeah.
Which scares me as a Reds fan, because that means now there's an actual team to compete against, where I was like, okay, there's 3 that we got to compete against. Now it's like all the teams.
Yeah. Milwaukee, I mean, they're consistent.
The Cubs will be interesting. I don't know what the Cubs are going to be like next year. We'll see what happens with them.
But Cody Bellinger has not signed anywhere yet, right?
No. And the Pirates are the Pirates, so
right,
they'll still suck. That's just the way they are.
Well, hey man, want to change gears and go to the college football side of things?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of movement over there too.
Well, I mean, it is funny to me, Josh, how I feel like I feel like we don't have a break from free agency of anything. I feel like every moment.
I mean, this in between period right here, especially for the teams that are in the playoffs or a New Year's Six game that are trying to manage their rosters right now and figure out who's all gonna be playing and stuff. It's crazy because even some of these guys going to the portal. Georgia has a couple guys that are going. I haven't heard anything from the big playoff teams yet, but yeah, Georgia I know has some guys. Ohio State has some guys.
Yeah, Ohio State has quite a few.
Oregon has some guys.
Well, even Ohio State. I mean, you look at Kyle McCord transferring. It's the worst time. Like, I mean, you're in the middle of bowl prep. What are you going to do? Like we talked about last week. Like, it's just this is the stupidest time to allow the transfer window. I can get why you do it. Just wait till after the bowl game. I know the universities want to get them in like at a certain time. Like, okay, I get that. I understand that. But if you're going to do that, then push back signing day for high school athletes to like late January, right?
That's
like
true. Signing day is going to be happening soon too.
You know, it happens. The early signing is the 20th, but yet you still have transfers. So like, what happens to a guy like Dylan Raiola, who, if you haven't heard, who's thinking about decommitting from Georgia, by the way, decommitted from Ohio State, committed to Georgia, now is possibly decommitting from Georgia to commit to Nebraska, where his dad played.
And on top of that, played at 3 or 4 high schools.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to state this. I said this, was I kind of bummed when he first decommitted? Yes. But now that I look at it, honestly, I don't want anything to do with him. He seems a guy that
we've seen this story. His name's Tathan Martell, and it doesn't end well.
No, it doesn't. When you jump around and you're not willing to commit, that's the one thing I like about what I liked about CJ Stroud. I liked about some of these guys. They stuck it out. You know, Devin Brown the same way. I talk about the Kyle McCord thing. I think it's stupid that he left after 1 year. Like, he had everything going for him. Like, okay, Ryan Day didn't commit to you. Sorry that you need to bring in your dad to transfer,
to
right?
fight your
ridiculous,
arguments.
right? So, you know, they say he might be going to Nebraska. Him and Julian Fleming from Ohio State went on a visit together. Look, if he goes to Nebraska, I cannot wait. I hope, and I don't even remember if they're on the schedule next year, but
they are.
Please,
we talked about this. Nebraska is at Ohio State next year, I think, which is why I didn't think McCord would even consider this.
I will pray for him heavily, because I'm telling you, that guy coming into that stadium will be booed out of the wazoo. And also, I would not be surprised if Knowles unleashes the gates of all living heck out on him and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not like it here?" It's again, this whole transfer portal is weird. I mean, Chip Trainum from Ohio State committed to Kentucky today as we're recording this. Again, weird move. Don't really understand it. Don't get it. It leaves Ohio State with, by the way, that's the other thing. Ohio State now has, I think they're going to probably have around 60 dudes scholarship wise by the time the game comes around in January. You've lost 3 DBs. You're down to 2 scholarship running backs. We don't know what's going on with Marv. We do know that Mecca Ibuka is coming back. We do know
coming back to play in the bowl, or coming back?
Sorry, coming back to play in the bowl game. So Ibuka's coming back to play the bowl. Okay. Donovan Jackson,
Denzel Burke's on that list.
A couple D linemen are coming back to play in the bowl game and then decide. So that tells me is that for all the people out there, and I'm going to make it very blunt. I know I'm getting off tangent here, Josh. I'm sorry, but I got to make this point here. The thing that bothers me is the amount of people that said Ohio State's going to give up. They don't care about this game. That's a load of crap, because I know Ryan Day. And if there's one thing we know about Ryan Day, is that he does not take a, B+ performance or a B performance. Right. And I believe that this team has to win this game. Josh, you can't go 2 straight years where you've lost your last 2 games of the year. You cannot. That's just it's not an area you want to go into. So to me, I think that it will be an interesting game, but we'll talk about that another week. But anyways, I just want to talk about that. People that think this is a good idea, rethink it.
Yeah, and I've heard coaches too talk about how it just interferes with academic calendar too, with class schedules and stuff. Oh man. Well, while you're getting that off, I'll go ahead and go over to Dylan Gabriel, one of the biggest names on the portal, to go ahead and make his decision to go ahead and go to Oregon. Bo Nix being gone, I think that's a transition that makes sense. Good get for Dan Lanning. The one thing that makes it interesting, the one thing that does make it interesting is that now led to Ty Thompson going to the portal, who would have been or who was the backup last year, was a 4 or 5-star quarterback, I think, but in the portal now because he's not going to get to play. And that also means that DJU and Dante Moore are probably going to be looking elsewhere too. So domino there are falling. I think the other thing too with Dante Moore, we talked about him maybe going to Michigan State. I think Michigan State went ahead and got DJU's backup quarterback that was at Oregon State. I'm going to go ahead and double check that.
Melis or something like that. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but I think he's a full commit to Michigan State.
But it is interesting, though, Josh, you were saying something about dominoes falling. I thought the podcast is an Ohio State podcast, but they said something very interesting. They just talked about the portal in general. They said you do not have to rush to get, let's say, any of the big name QBs that are out there right now, right? You miss out on some of these Gabriel and stuff, but hey, you're patient. Other talent will come out, right? There's a lot of guys that maybe I feel like Ohio State hasn't got one yet, because I don't know if they feel like Cam Ward is the guy, right? I don't know if they think Cam Ward's the guy or some of these other dudes. And, I've heard things from the Tulane quarterback that he may transfer as a grad transfer after the bowl game, who I know a lot of NFL scouts love. I also know, there's other quarterbacks out there, but maybe Ohio State's even saying like, hey, let's see what we got in Devin Brown. And then at the end of the day, we'll see what's out there. I don't know what's going to go on. But Dylan Gabriel's an interesting one though, Josh, because I feel like also, I don't know if you knew this, but he's behind, I think, Bo Nix in a couple different career stat wise for NCAA records, which I think is really hilarious that they're basically replacing with a guy that's like behind him in records.
The other guy that's been playing football forever.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Dylan Gabriel fits in the Big Ten. Big Ten is a different ball game than the Big 12. It's not a game where you can, kind of scramble like, Ohio State did that back in the day, but really you don't see a lot of really true successful scrambling QBs. I'm not saying Dylan Gabriel's just a scrambler. I don't want to say that because I've been proven wrong. But I do believe that like, how is Oregon going to make the transition and how is that going to affect the whole team? It'll be very interesting to see. Again, I think he's a great quarterback. I wish Ohio State would have got him. It'd be awesome, but that's where he wants to go. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. We're going to get to see Gabriel and Oregon next year play against UCLA, Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, Illinois, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Michigan's schedule is the hardest out of the whole Big Ten. Their schedule is brutal.
Is.
They basically, the Big Ten said, hey, we're not only going to suspend your head coach, we're just going to screw you for next year. Is basically what they said.
So, like we were saying, Aiden Childs, Oregon State's backup quarterback, he is 100% to Michigan State.
Which basically followed his head coach. The head coach recruited him, said, hey, do you want to come join me? Is basically what he said.
Right. Juice Wells, wide receiver from South Carolina. I think you had some injuries this year, but was an all SEC receiver the year before. He's going over to Ole Miss now. Mm-hmm. Those guys are always crushing the portal. Lane Kiffin does well over there, and I think that's another guy that could keep Jackson Dart over there for another year with Leonard, an already really solid receiving core over there.
And Leonard's going to Notre Dame. That was official today. As
Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. Yep.
Which is weird, man. I don't know. Dude, is this a make or break year for Notre Dame? Do you think for Freeman is this a prove it or we got the same as a usual year?
Yeah, I don't know. He was hot on the recruiting trail, so I think give those guys some time to come in and develop. But I think they have lost some games that they probably shouldn't, that Brian Kelly wouldn't have lost.
No,
but they've also maybe won some games that Brian Kelly wouldn't have either. Yeah. Talking to a Notre Dame fan about the Riley Leonard thing, he wants to see them get a little bit more weapons because just with Sam Hartman kind of falling off this past year, he thought that had more to do with the guys that he was throwing to himself.
Yeah,
maybe there is a little bit of truth to that, but it's not like Sam had all these ballers over at Wake Forest either.
No.
So there's also that, but I like Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. A couple other moves. Let me see if there's any others. We talked, I think, about Brock Vandagriff going to Kentucky.
There's a guy from Harvard that is transferring to Louisville. Big D lineman named Thor. I mean, I'm sorry. If your name's Thor, you're just cool. You're just a cool dude. No news on any of the Ohio State big transfers outside of Chip Trayanum.
Kyle McCord is 100% crystal ball commit to Nebraska.
Dude, I
that's
hope,
a slam dunk.
Dude, I hope, man. I hope he walks into the shoe, man. Just come into the shoe. I just dare you.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, though. If you look at the Nebraska team, let me ask you this, Josh. You look at the Nebraska team, you put Kyle McCord on it. Does that team win 10 games? Like, does he change the trajectory of that team? Okay, add Julian Fleming onto that mix.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think you could go ahead and I've said it. Kyle McCord was good enough to start at Ohio State, which makes me think that he's good enough to start at, 80, 90% of teams in the country. But is he that guy that's going to be a difference maker in Nebraska, maybe winning, 6, 7, 8 games? And I don't know. I don't think he's that kind of guy. I think they also need to do a lot more than just bringing in a guy like McCord.
This is my other question. Do you think after next year he's going to regret leaving Ohio State? This is the big question that was asked, and I think this is really interesting to hear your thoughts.
I think so. If his whole thing is that he doesn't want to have to battle it out and wants a guaranteed starting quarterback job, it's all going to look cool right now, but I really do think that he's going to miss winning and playing in the big moments. and being, featured on national TV as much as Ohio State is, I think that that's all going to be things that he's going to miss.
Does that go back to the fact that he just can't handle the pressure? That's what I believe. I think he can't handle that. I think good combination of having the it factor and handling the pressure. I think that's the two things I feel like he just
definitely can't handle the pressure, and that's why he's making this move to begin with. That's why he doesn't want to have to battle it out.
He wants to go out to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Job.
That's where he wants to go.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Man, so some other guys on here that we're waiting to hear from. I think you meant, Grayson McCall is in here, Coastal Carolina's quarterback.
I don't think his hype is as big as it was 2 years ago. I feel like it's
I think the year before was definitely the year. And then Tyler Van Dyke is still here. DJU still here. Again. Will Rogers, Mississippi State quarterback.
Heard Washington is where he might end
up. That's where he's being crystal balled to, which Michael Penix is leaving. So
which that honestly for Will Rogers, it makes sense because the new Mississippi State was just screwed with the way he plays. It just did not mesh with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm double checking to see if there's anything else here, but those look like the big ones. No one really has any intel on where Cam Ward's going to go or Dante Moore.
There was one move that I remember seeing. The guy from, I believe, South Alabama, he had like 1,300 rushing yards this year. I believe he's transferring to, it's Missouri. So he's transferring to Missouri because they're losing Schrader, obviously, and they're going to add this guy who I believe had like 1,300 rushing yards and like 14 TDs or something like that this year. It's an interesting move. Carroll, I think his last name's Carroll. I can't remember exactly where he played. North Alabama? No, Georgia State. That's what it was. Gotcha. So an interesting move by Missouri. They seem to, and again, that's what's going to make this game interesting here in a month with Ohio State because, Missouri has nothing to lose, right? Like they have everything to prove. Mm-hmm. Ohio State is like, what are you playing for? That's what the question's been to Ryan Day today. At his press conference, like, what are you guys playing for? And I just think some of the players laughed at the reporters, like, we do love playing football. Like, and that's the other thing I think is stupid. Is like people think that, just because you lost guys to portal, now our season's done. Like, no, you still have one game left for some of these freshmen to prove who you belong. Like that's the best part about football. You get to prove where you at.
Mm-hmm. In the mix of all this too, we also had another head coaching hire, Duke bringing in Manny Diaz. So that means that Jim Knowles will stay at Ohio State at least for another season, it looks like. What I think of it, Manny Diaz went – it's an interesting one. Manny Diaz went 21-15 at Miami, which, I mean, if you can go 21-15 over 2 or 3 seasons at Duke, I think they'll take that.
Yeah.
But at a program like Miami that's been, trying to get back to where they were in the early 2000s, late 90s, that's obviously not going to fly.
Well, that's what happens when you're trying to go like legal, and like actually do things properly. It does take a while to get back on your feet.
Sure. But Manny Diaz, obviously big defensive mind. I mean, even when he was Miami's defensive coordinator, solid defense there, generated a lot of turnovers. Penn State had one of the best defenses in the country that he coordinated over there. So I think going to Duke, it's a little less pressure. Mike Elko did show that you can win there.
Yeah.
10 wins that first season there, and I think they got 8 this season, I want to say. I think Manny can at least get close to that every now and then, consistently go like 7-5, 8-4, and then maybe every now and then pull out the 10-win season, work his way back up in the head coaching ranks.
Do you think it's weird that they went to another defensive coach at Duke? Or do you think it would have maybe been smart to maybe go out and get a guy that maybe is a little more creative on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Duke, you look at Mike Elko, defensive mind, and how they were able to win some games that way. And so they were like, okay, this is a formula that has worked with us, and let's just stick with
it's such a Duke
what we know works.
Too.
Yeah, and they chat with Jim Knowles, another defensive coordinator, and they chat with Manny Diaz, another defensive guy. So
yeah,
it's not every now and then you bring in an athlete like Riley Leonard at quarterback. So hopefully for Manny, he can at least get another guy kind of like that. And then if you can take care of things on the defensive side, rely on some good quarterback play, you can continue to do what Duke's been able to do these past couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot of different things happening. I mean, Keenan Bailey, I believe, is going to stay at Ohio State. I don't think he took the Eastern Carolina. I mean, he did get robbed. I don't know if you heard about that. He got carjacked in Cleveland. Fun fact. Yeah, got carjacked by 4 teenagers. What a way to go down. And then obviously Knowles staying at Ohio State. I think that is going to be a very underrated, huge win for Ohio State. not losing Knowles, like that would have been an extra, like, just frustrating blow if they would have lost him to that head coaching job.
I actually never really thought he was gonna go to Duke. I think that he's just as old as he is now, and as long as he's
He's
been an
like, why not?
assistant coach, yeah.
He's
But
like, why not?
Duke wouldn't have been like too crazy because he was a defensive coordinator there for quite a while
Yeah.
before he was at Oklahoma State and then Ohio State. So he has a relationship there. But at this stage of his career, I'd have been surprised if he took a head coaching job.
Yeah. And the other, obviously we'll see other coaching changes. I know Ohio State, there's talk they're going to make coaching changes and some other teams. But even just, I'm interested to see, I saw this post I thought was hilarious was Alabama, no, Georgia might not be going for a three-peat, but their former player will. I just thought that was hilarious too, because he's playing at Texas now.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Andy
like
Mitchell.
some of these things, it's like really fascinating for this. But yeah, I think that talks about pretty much wraps up the old segment, right?
As far as like transferring and movements go, do you want
Yeah.
to react to the award selections? Because we haven't gotten to
Yes.
talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
Let's do that. Yeah. We were spot on. I think pretty much with the Heisman, pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think Michael Penix was second, right?
Yep. Which we said.
And then Bo Nix third. And then Marv
And then
fourth.
Marv.
Just the token up there
Also,
for nine
I do want
quarterbacks.
to say, I love the hate that Marv's getting because Marv won the Blitnikoff and then was by one vote, by the way, which is the closest margin ever. Because let's be honest, Marv should have won it last year. And I think part of that is why he won it this year. Like, I really do believe that. I think they didn't want to let him go to the NFL without winning at least one Blitnikoff. Like, you can't say he's the best. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the carryover from last year, because I think a lot of voters they realize they messed up last year. And even though Neighbors has better numbers, I do believe, though, that, like, you can't compare two guys where one's getting the ball, like, a 30% less. Like, Harrison's only getting targeted like a third of what Neighbors was or something like that. I can't remember the actual number. But so yeah, there's a lot of things that I think you can't just view Biletnikoff based off of numbers, because if we did that, then why didn't they give it to the guy that plays in the MAC that has 108 catches for 1,900 yards, right? Like, if we're going to do it based off numbers, then we do it that way. No, it's how you perform in big games. And even the Michigan game, Marv showed out to be Marv, right? And I think that's the difference. And Neighbors, yeah, he did great, but like, he never was like, he did flashy plays, but it wasn't like, dude, the dude's catching a ball with both knees on the ground, getting grabbed and catching it with one hand, right? Like, no one does that. Marv is Marv. And again, maybe I'm a little biased, but maybe I'll hear your thoughts. But I just think that this whole like overreacting about him being Biletnikoff is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think with CJ last year, we really got to see Marv burst onto the scene and play with a quarterback as talented as CJ is and show just what he is capable of. So if there was any kind of dip in production this year, like we expected, since Kyle McCord is playing quarterback, the talent at least is still there, and we still saw him make some crazy catches out there. So it's like you said, he's also getting, I think, less targets than what some of those guys are too. And Neighbors and Odunze are also two great receivers. They help their quarterbacks get on the Heisman finalist list. So it was a good group of three guys, and you could make arguments for all three of them, but I thought it should have been Marv. And
yeah, and it showed too that Marv was on the Heisman list, and by the way, none of the other ones made in the top 10. So like, to me, it showed the value that people put on Marvin Harrison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so from Marv being and then he's also a Heisman finalist, and we see Jaden Daniels go ahead and win that award like we had predicted and like we thought. Some people I'm seeing on Twitter have been saying he won it because of his receivers, because he didn't have it, or he only played big in his games against like Georgia State and stuff like that. I mean, he had big games over there, but you can look at all the good teams that he played. They weren't losing those games because of him. The defense is out there screwing things up.
Yeah,
but also it's not like Malik Neighbors is out here rushing Jaden Daniels 1,100 yards either.
No, I did think it was funny
his legs and his arm.
I did think it was interesting how a lot of people are really frustrated how, like, in his jacket he had pictures of him doing the Heisman pose, but then in Penix's jacket he wrote every single person on the team, and I think it just shows you the humbleness of Penix. I'm not going to read into that as much as other people are, but I just think it was funny that people were like, man, this guy cares about his team, and Daniel's worried about himself. I'm like, dude, it is the Heisman. Like, I can't blame the guy for being excited about trying to win the Heisman.
Right. And if we're gonna go ahead and make that argument that Jaden Daniels put up the big numbers in the bad games, I think
He
we
put
got
up
to
in
talk
all
about.
games.
I think we got to talk about how Michael Penix had 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions against Arizona State, a game that they did win 15-7. But
Mhm.
imagine if Jaden Daniels had any kind of performance like
Oh, he
that.
wouldn't have won it. He wouldn't have won it. There's no way. No
Those would
way.
have been guaranteed losses. He's not having like performances like that in the games that they lose. Again, Michael Penix, and I'm not doing this like taking anything away from him, completes less than half his passes against Oregon State. They still somehow go out and manage to win that game. Uh, then you have the Arizona game, a game that they win by 7 points, and he doesn't even have a touchdown in that game. It's like Michael Penix ended the year with some great numbers too, but a lot of these games that they won were a complete team effort by Washington. And I think with LSU, you had Jane Daniels carrying a lot of weight for that team that,
I
finishes the season 9-3. But
I
I think Jane Daniels had to do a whole lot more for his team.
so there was two things that someone brought up. Imagine putting Jaden Daniels on this Ohio State offensive with the talent Ohio State had offense with Ohio State's defense. Can you
Mm,
imagine Jaden Daniels in Ryan Day's offense?
yeah.
Like, just imagine like what CJ Stroud did, but imagine a more athletic, more fiery competitor, I think, in some case scenario. And it would have just been like, that would be so cool. Like, if you put that production with Ohio State and the way they run the ball and the way they have the receivers, you imagine Marv and him and this, like, you're talking about neighbors doing it. Imagine if Marv had a quarterback that actually could consistently get him the ball. Um, that to me, it would just be remarkable. Like, if Ohio State could get a guy like that.
Yeah. Um, Some of the other big awards I think that were given out, or actually real quick before I say, I think you threw it up on the socials, but that Arizona State roster that had Jaden Daniels,
Yeah,
Johnny Wilson, Ricky Pearsall.
ridiculous.
Yeah, Herm Edwards was balling out there, but obviously illegally, which is why
Of course,
he's not the coach anymore and why they
of
had to deal
course.
with some punishments over there. Yeah, but what a squad. Yeah, some of
What
the
a
other
way to
awards
get it.
though. Some of the other awards, I think Allie Gordon won the Doak Walker, right?
Yep,
I don't think any of us are
called
going
it.
to disagree with that. Yeah.
Called it. Someone said Schrader should have won. I'm like, no. If you watch Ollie Gordon run, Schrader's a great player, but Ollie Gordon is just a freak. Like, when that
Yeah, I
guy
ain't
gets going, he's a freak.
I didn't have any problem with that. I think Maxwell Award was Jaden Daniels. Davey
Yeah,
O'Brien was Michael
Penix.
Penix.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones,
I know. Bowers won the tight end. Whatever.
Mackey.
Yeah, Mackey. Which I was hoping for. My guy to get it, but Stover. But I understand. Like, I get it.
Brock Bowers is too good, man.
But no, but seriously though, to see Ohio State tight end in there is just really impressive for Ohio State, because they never have a tight end ever anywhere close to a national award,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah, Ohio State tight ends they're
Dude,
not
Farmer Gronk, man.
used like that. Yeah.
Farmer Gronk.
The Iowa defensive coordinator, I think, won the Broyles Award. That was
Yep.
announced a little before all
Which
these
was
player
weird.
ones.
That one caught me off guard for, like, from left field. I did not see that one coming at all, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like
great, a defensive coordinator, but like, yeah, he had no offense. So like, what are we talking about here? And
yeah,
also, if you look at the Big Ten, Penn State had a better defense.
Penn State had a better defense. Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah.
So what are we talking about here? Jim
Yeah, I don't
Knowles
know.
would make more sense if you really think about the perspective of what they're trying to do. But whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, that one. I mean, great season for them. I think Iowa did waste a really good defense, but I think there were better assistants out there that.
Yeah, and Air Force. Air Force they got their first ever Thorpe Award winner, which I did not even know this guy was good. I had no idea. I had no idea about him. Did you? I didn't have an idea about him.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, guys that we've talked about, Thorpe, I think Will Johnson would have been like one of the more
Yeah.
hot names to win that
Well,
award. But
DeJean from Iowa would have been another one.
yeah. Trying to check the list of
Another
awards
Australian,
here.
another Australian won the punter of the year. Shocker.
Oh yeah.
It's just another Australian from Iowa, by the way. Iowa just, and they're like, we're so proud of our punter. I'm like, that's a bad thing. Okay. If you're winning this award, it's not good. All right. It's just really not.
The Outland trophy for outstanding interior lineman was Tavondre Sweat. I like
Makes
that
sense.
pick.
Very good.
Yeah, from Texas. Let me see here. We've got Let me find him here. Some of the other positions that might be notable here. I'm trying to check. Coach of the Year, Kalen DeBoer,
Makes
Washington. What do you think
sense.
about that one?
Makes sense. I guess I kind of would have thought maybe. So this is my thought on it. I have no issues with it. They're undefeated. I don't have an issue with it. I guess for me, if you're going to do Coach of the Year, I always feel like it's got to be someone that you didn't really see coming. I think Florida State. I think Norvell deserved it. I also feel like another coach you could throw in there would be Missouri's coach. I mean, Missouri's like what,
Drinkwitz,
ninth?
yep.
Yeah, they're like ninth ranked, right?
Also,
Kiffin,
Jed
that's another
Fish
one. Jed
winning
Fish,
8 or
yeah,
9 games at
yeah,
Arizona with his backup quarterback most of the season. That's hard to do.
that's true.
Let's see. Defensive Player of the Year, Peyton Wilson
Didn't even know he
from
existed.
NC
To be honest
State.
with you, I had no idea. Sorry, they're not on TV much, you know.
Yeah. Um, the butt kiss was also Peyton Wilson,
Again,
best linebacker.
cool, awesome.
Yeah, we already mentioned Trey Taylor is the name of the Air Force defensive back that won the Thorpe Award.
Which was very cool that he received the award with all of the military, all of his teammates in military uniform behind him. Hats off to
Very
you.
cool. Yeah. We got Leatu Latu winning the Hendricks Award for
That one
defensive
makes
end of
sense.
the year.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Didn't
That's
even know
one
there was a
that
defensive end award. I had no idea there was a defensive end award.
well, you got an interior defensive lineman, so it makes sense that you would have an
What's next?
outerior
What's next? A
defensive
Nickelback award? Are they gonna have like a Nickelback or a long
a
snapper
Nickelback
award? Like
award.
goodness,
Yeah.
Jiminy Christmas.
There's a lot of awards on here, and I don't even know how much of them are really taking all that seriously. But listen to this one: the Warfel Trophy, Top Community Servant of the Year, Lad McConkey.
What's next, man?
Yeah,
Like best line holder, like best door holder award for visiting teams.
we also have a Defensive Player of the Year award, but we have a Outstanding Defensive Player, which
What's
went
the
to Junior
difference?
Colson. Yeah,
What's
it's
the
like
difference?
this sounds like we're
It's the
just
same thing.
come up with many awards. The Hornung Award to the most versatile player was Travis Hunter.
But okay, what is the point? Like what?
Yeah,
The point of football is to be versatile. Like that's generally the point of football. So what's if you're gonna say that, say dual athlete or like dual like both way. Like
yeah, like Travis
versatile just
Hunter
sounds
was an
weird.
elite receiver and defensive back, but you would
Okay,
like
hold
your
on.
receiver to be
Let's
able to
not call
run
it.
any route.
Yes, let's not call elite, man. That guy on the offensive side of the ball was very one route guy. Let's run the seam route, fade or out. Like that was it. Like there was no technique with him really, if you think about it.
Yeah, so like versatility, I guess a receiver that can run any route, catch any pass, has a lot of different traits, kind of like that. Not too many guys are two-way like that. Um, let me check here. Graham Nicholson from Miami,
Dude, I
Ohio,
love it.
winning the Place Kicker
Ohio.
trophy.
Ohio coming through.
Yeah, representing the Buckeye State, I guess. That's pretty much all of them
Yeah.
that I think are worth noting here. I think we covered all the bases there.
Yeah.
So sticking with football, the
Yes.
Browns, man,
Dude, let's
and
talk
Joe
about it, dude.
Flacco
Let's
being
talk about it.
the hero that we did not know that we
Was
needed.
coming. You want to know a fun fact, Josh? I learned this fact today.
All right.
The Browns are only the 13th team to start 4 quarterbacks in an NFL season.
Wow.
And they're one of the only teams to have every quarterback win a game. I don't remember how many of those were actually won every game, or everyone won a game. But so just think about this. If Stefanski is not up for Coach of the Year, I ran down this. I wrote it on my phone. They have lost their starting quarterback. Dorian Thompson-Robinson got hurt. Obviously, that's why Joe Flacco was starting. You had obviously Walker came in and played. You lost Nick Chubb. You lost 4 tackles now because as we're recording this, Jed Willis has just now went out officially for the whole season. Yesterday, DeJuan Jones had knee surgery. He's done for the season, plus the other 2 at the beginning of the year. You lost Cooper for a few games. Denzel Ward has not played for the last 3 games. Garrett has not looked himself for the last 4 games. He's been banged up. You lost a couple linebackers. You have lost a couple other like kind of no-name guys, but just injuries and injuries and injuries. If I would have told you all that would have happened, Josh, would you believe me when I'd say that we were 8-5, sitting at the 5th seed of the playoffs and have an 87% chance of making the playoffs?
87%. Yeah, I would not have believed you. And as critical as I've been of Kevin Stefanski even this
He's done a
season, if
great
we still
job.
somehow get in the playoffs with all those issues that we've had with health, I would go ahead and agree with you. Coach of
And
the year, it's got to be just
and
because of everything that you got to overcome there. And
is
87% chance probably has something to do with the fact who we're
they have a
playing
really easy
in these
schedule.
last several
Yeah,
games. So
really easy schedule.
it's definitely
And they
possible,
might face
but
the Texans without Stroud because Stroud is banged up.
that would be
Um,
huge if they can
now
pull that off.
there is this one thing. Do you think it's interesting that so the way the system works, if you didn't know, there's a practice squad, and Joe Flacco's been on the practice squad for the last 2 weeks. He's been elevated, which means that by rule he had to be put back on the practice squad, which means he could have signed with any team. According to Adam Schefter, he had been contacted by multiple teams, and he said, "No, I want to stick with the Browns." When was the last time you heard that, Josh? It feels so good. It
Wow.
feels so good
I
to
want
say
to
that you
stick
want to
with the
stick with the Browns.
Browns.
I love it.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
just makes me so happy
Yeah.
because it after all those years of him just tormenting the Browns and then him winning now his 10th game at Brown Stadium, which is like tied for the most ever with Baker, I think, which is just or third most ever with Baker, which is sad. Um, it's so cool to see how a guy like he said it. I don't know if you saw the interview, but he said that like he feels like a 10-year-old kid again. Like, look, I know that Joe Flacco is not the guy for the next 5 years, but if this guy, Josh, if we're sitting here in January doing a podcast and the Browns are sitting winning the AFC championship game and they're going to be in the Super Bowl and Joe Flacco has led them all the way to the Super Bowl. What this is my question to you. What do you do at that point? If you're the Browns, like what do you do? Honestly.
As in, do they continue with Deshaun Watson the year after that?
I'm not even saying like Deshaun Watson like as a starter. Like, do you keep him on the roster? Do you just say screw it? We'll take the money. We'll suck up the money and say
Oh, and keep
let's
Flacco on roster as
keep
backup QB.
keep Flacco on, and then you figure out what you're going to do with the starting quarterback. Because to me, look, the Browns have looked so much better with Flacco at quarterback, with DTR at times, but mainly with Flacco. And if I just think about Josh, what if they were healthy? If you had Nick Chubb, if you had two offensive tackles healthy, if you have a defense that's healthy all the time, like this team, like this defense is already good. This team could be instead of 8-5, they could be right now sitting there at 10-3, 11-2. Like it's that possible with this team.
Yeah, so keeping around Flacco as the backup quarterback if he wants that job, I think that that's something you definitely got to consider because the way DTR and PJ have played, I feel a lot more comfortable if Watson ends up,
And he still has an
playing
arm.
playing average football or gets hurt again next year. If we can have Joe Flacco come in instead of those guys, that can be our guy that we can rely
Some of
on.
those
Kind of like,
throws, man, he
yeah,
made were phenomenal. To
and some of them were
Njoku,
also hot garbage.
they were, but like, what do you expect from a guy that 3 weeks ago was watching on his mom's basement, like with his mom and dad, like he was watching football, like for a guy that's picked up the offense in 3 weeks, hadn't played for a whole year, to the way he's doing what he's doing, man, it's really impressive to be honest with you.
Yeah,
It's
and
really,
I'll
really
reiterate,
impressive.
better than any other option on the roster right now.
Yeah,
So stick with Joe
and he
Flacco.
wants to be here. He said it himself.
Yep,
I love it.
wants to be here.
How do
Yep,
you think of the
that's what.
defense? How do you think of the defense? Because I think the defense has played okay, not great. I feel like they
Yeah,
played
it's
okay,
not
not great.
looking as on fire as it was those first few games of the season, where it's like we literally have a historic defense here. We can't do anything wrong defensively.
Yeah,
It's still the strength of our roster right now, given all the
I mean, it
injuries and
doesn't
health
help.
issues
It
we've had
doesn't
on
help when there's
offense. But
turnovers at like inside the 20. It did not help for two of those scores. That didn't help
yeah,
either.
that was one of the frustrating things is we forced 4 turnovers against Jacksonville with
They
Trevor
forced
Lawrence
three,
playing in the game, but then we had 3 of our own. And it's like,
and I'll tell you, with Ward out, Martin Emerson looks like a legit corner, like a legit dude, like a lockdown guy. I really
yeah,
believe that.
that's a pick that looks like we definitely hit on in the
Yeah,
middle of the draft. Just
yeah.
last year's draft.
Newsome is not looking. I don't really like the way he plays. I don't. I don't know what it is. So yeah, dude, it's interesting with this Browns defense. I think Garrett is not healthy. He'll tell you he is. He is not healthy. I don't know if you watched him last few weeks. He does not look the same explosiveness as what he's been the previous weeks.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Something's off, and it's probably just that is
Yeah.
something going on there as far as his health.
So obviously this week they play
The Bears.
the Bears, which by the way, the Bears are not as bad as they were at the beginning of the year. Justin Fields has this team rolling, and I hate when the Browns play running quarterbacks because we suck at it.
We are not good at it.
We're so bad. And you know they're going to run it like 40 times with him. Like they're just going to say like, here, you either throw the screen pass or you run. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah, so Fields against Detroit last week. They beat Detroit, and he had 223 yards passing with a touchdown. On the ground, he had another 58 yards and a touchdown.
Dude, he's deadly. And to think
The week before that, they beat Minnesota. He had 217 through the air. He had another 59 on the ground. No touchdowns in that game, though.
it is kind of crazy to think that that man at Ohio State was a pocket passer. What they could have done with him, that's besides the point. But anyways,
Yeah.
Also another thing with the Browns, Dustin Hopkins, man, dude just keeps kicking, and yet he's not even the best kicker in the NFL because Aubrey, the 28-year-old rookie for the Cowboys, is just unreal. But Hopkins, do you think it was a smart move trading a 7th round pick for him?
Oh, yeah. Best 7th round pick we've ever given up.
Better
Or
than
the
Cade
best
York?
return we've ever gotten for a 7th round pick. Yeah. 91% of his field goals been made. I think for this season, he is, I'm checking it right now, 31 of 34. We'll take it. When's the last time we've had a kicker that only missed 3 kicks?
Also, he set a record. He has the most field goals in a single season. Beat Phil Dawson. If you've beat Phil Dawson as a Browns kicker, then you have now hit the
Has not
climax.
missed a kick in the 20s or the 30s.
That's impressive.
And he's perfect over 50 as well.
That's just, and have you seen how hard it is to kick a 50-yard field goal? I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
Also, the punter last week for the Browns, he had what, like 3 punts over 70 yards or something like that?
By Horkus, yeah, he had that one
He
that
had a
was like
boomer,
over
dude.
80. Yeah, like punting from the back of his end zone all the way to like the 20.
He's pretty
It was
good. He's a
crazy.
pretty good punter, which I don't know why I'm talking about punters. Who does that? But no, I think the Browns are great. Let me ask you this, Josh. What do you think? Let's give a prediction here. Prediction to finish the year. What do you think their final record will be as the regular season closes?
And it never goes the way you think. So
I know. I'm just seeing what you think.
I'm gonna guess a couple more losses than what other people probably will. But yeah, we got the solid read off all the teams. We got the Bears this Sunday, and then we got the Texans at Houston, which CJ may not be playing that game, so keep an eye on that. We got a home game against the Jets. We got a road game against the Bengals, and both of those teams also are not playing with their starting quarterbacks.
But Browning for the
either.
Bengals is looking phenomenal, by the way.
Better than what we initially thought. Yeah. That game is at Cincinnati as well, and we won the opener against Joe Burrow. So if I had to guess here, I think that we can win 2 of 4. I'm gonna go ahead and say we finish 10-7. We're looking at a wild card spot. I think Baltimore's cooking too much and too far ahead to catch them. They're gonna win the division. I think we can go ahead and take second here, though.
I'm going to say we finish. I'm not going to say they're going to go perfectly in the last games. I think they're going to lose. If the game I see them losing is, it's either Houston or the Bengals. Like, I just feel like one of those two games is just
If
going to
CJ plays, I'm not even giving us a chance.
It's
and then since we won the first game against the Bengals, we obviously have to lose the second one, right?
Of course, because that's the way it works. No, I'm going to say we finish. I'm going to go 11-6. I'm going to say they finish with 3 out of the last 4 games they win. I don't trust Wilson and the Jets. Like, I know he had a good game, but like he's so inconsistent.
How ugly is that game going to look? Zach Wilson versus Joe Flacco with 2 of the best defenses in the country.
It's going to be so bad. I do think the Browns will win this week. I just don't think the Bears have enough firepower to really, if they can't run the ball with Fields, I think they're going to struggle. And if they can get Ward back, that'd be huge for the Browns. But I think they beat the Texans without Stroud. Like I still can see them going 12-5, but if Stroud plays and if the Bengals can somehow squeak out a win, I'm not going to be disappointed going 11-6, finishing second, and you're sitting there playing the Jaguars again.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting finish because I saw something that if enough things happen, the Browns got to win out, and then I think the Chiefs need to have a loss, and the Ravens need to like lose twice, and we're somehow the 1 seed in the AFC.
What in the blazes?
Yeah.
Okay, if this happens, Josh, I will lose my mind if the Browns, with their fourth QB of the year, a backup running back, basically an offensive line they bought off Craigslist, and a defense that has just been mangled. If they somehow get the number one seed, I will forever. I don't care if the Browns win a single playoff game. I will be just so happy the fact that the Browns did that this year.
I'll give you the rundown right now. So us, Jacksonville, and Kansas City are all 8-5 right now.
Yeah.
So we need to win out, and then that would obviously mean that Jacksonville needs to lose a game so that we finish a game ahead of them, and Kansas City needs to lose a game so that we finish a game ahead of them. That would mean that the Dolphins need to finish out 2-2 in their last 4 games, which I'll go ahead and tell you which those games are. They have to go 2-2 against the Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills.
That's possible. They could go 1-3 in those games.
Yeah, they don't do too well against some of the elite teams in the country. And then the Ravens, obviously, I just mentioned them in that Dolphins talk. They also got to play the Jags. So one of those teams is going to go down in that game. The 49ers, also elite over in the NFC. And the Steelers. So Baltimore needs to go 1-3 or 2-2. I don't know how the tiebreaker works since we beat them and they beat us.
I think it's points, usually.
Maybe. Okay, so Baltimore kind of has to go 2-2 and then maybe some tiebreaker in there. But
all I know,
it's not a wild scenario.
Who beat the 49ers this year? The Browns.
We did.
The Browns. That's right. With PJ Walker at quarterback. Wild. That's just a feat in itself. It is crazy. And this is what a refreshing episode, Josh. What a refreshing episode to just cover all these different layers. We're like an onion. We just peeled back layers. How do you feel about that analogy? That's a very bad analogy, but we go for the
no comment.
No comment. It's fine. But no, Josh and I are very excited about the upcoming bowl games. So we will cover those as they get closer. The issue is that so many players have not announced whether they're playing or not, which then affects how we tend to judge the game, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So
that gives me a lot of confidence on Ohio State that they got as many guys.
Yeah, they got playing 6 the coming back for sure.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
By the way, the Bulls start this weekend. We get the Myrtle Beach Bowl with Georgia Southern and Ohio to kick things off at 11 a.m. this Saturday.
Make sure you get your betting in at 8 a.m. Central. I'm just kidding. I don't know why I said that. It's just weird.
And then if that's not enough for you, Florida A&M and Howard play in the Cricket Celebration Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Just getting me all excited for football. Yeah, those games.
I know, man. Yeah, we got a lot of games going on that day. We got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bowls on Saturday all throughout the day. The day ends with California and Texas Tech and the Radiant Technologies Independence Bowl.
The what?
UCLA and Boise State and the Starco Brands LA Bowl.
Dude, these names are getting ridiculous, man. They really are getting ridiculous.
Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl is Miami, Ohio, and App State.
What?
That's what it says.
Oh, my goodness.
Avocados from Mexico Bowl.
We should just have the Baseline Podcast Bowl. Like, we should just sponsor a bowl. Like, just get some rich dude and just say, hey, can we sponsor a bowl? And and you could do the coin toss. That'd be fun. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoy this episode. We know we did. We hope that you have a great time, as Josh said, watching bowl games this weekend. Grab some popcorn, maybe grab a pizza from the local diner. I don't know. Get yourself some barbecue. Well, whatever you think makes it wintry. Maybe chili. I bet Josh is gonna get some chili this weekend. I can just feel it. Maybe some.
Or be festive and decorate Christmas cookies.
Okay, that it's still a little early for that.
Still early on the 16th, 9 days away.
Yes, it is. I still haven't watched a Christmas movie yet this year. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hurting.
I started up early in November.
That hurts me. I'm okay with after Thanksgiving, but that just hurts, man. That just hurts. Anyways, we hope you guys have a great time. If you are celebrating early with family, maybe doing an early Christmas, have fun with your family and friends. We hope you guys will tune back in next week for our next episode. But if you have loved this episode, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell on YouTube. That allows us to see that you're enjoying our content. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, share it with your friends and family. And as we said earlier, be safe, have a great weekend, and until next time, we'll see ya.